I do want to preface this, okay? I am going to preface this. We are doing this from an analytical perspective. All right? We are doing this from the perspective of an investigation into whether or not a police officer, federal police officer involved shooting may be considered justifiable, given the totality of the circumstances of what occurred in this. I'm going to say this flat out from the onset. This is not about ideologies. This is not about left and right. This is not about, the feelings of the people that have been participating. We are looking at this analytically, as it should be done, it should have been done from the very beginning. We're looking this analytically at facts and evidence, not ideologies. Okay? So, no going off about the leftists, no going off about the rights, no going off about the politics. This is not political. This is analytical. Factual. Basically, put on your CSI caps. Everybody put on your CSI caps. We are going to be crime scene investigators on this one. Okay? I'm saying that up front. We're doing crime scene investigations. That's what this is. Everybody good? All right. Yeah, CSI with autism. Thank you very much. All right. Let's get into this. It's going to be a hard topic, but it's an analytics or an analysis that needs to be done. So let's do it.
Gosh dang it, Minnesota! Again? Another shooting? What's happening here? It was eventually going to happen, wasn't it? Just the perfect storm of anti-administration and the administration butting heads, being put in a pressure cooker and having the media and local officials just turn that thing up to high and wait for it to pop off. And honestly, the thing that's been bad, the individual takes from people in power, whether voted in power or put there by the administration, on this shooting and if it was legal or illegal and why. And we're going to get to that.
Yes, I'm so glad that I'm so glad he brought that up, because that was a huge fuck up. I've said it before. The responses by officials to the shooting were major fuck ups. Majorly. And I'm glad Rich brought that up.
We're going to get to all of it. This is going to be an in-depth video. And I'm going to give you the good and the bad. Oh, because there's bad. There's bad from both sides here, all right? And hopefully I can do it in a way that all the comments will just call me a turd and everybody can get along and I'll be the scapegoat for my
I'm curious how much his analytics is in line with mine.
We're going to be in a couple different factors here, all right? We're going to show you the ICE presence in Minnesota and talk about that. We're going to talk about protesting and when protesting turns into breaking the law. We're going to talk about tactics used by ICE. We're going to talk about the shooting, and we're also going to talk about your Second Amendment rights while protesting and while being detained or arrested, along with some of the most egregious takes by people in the media on this entire thing. Gash Patel, Jon Stewart. So get ready for a big dose of reality as we...
And by the way, I like that. He called out Jon Stewart for a colloquially speaking leftist take, and then he also called out Gash Patel, head of the FBI, for his bullshit take. I am in agreement with Rich on this. The responses were all around the fucking horrible. All around, the responses were absolutely horrible. I am 100% in. I have been 100% in agreement with Rich's opinion on that. I said so the day it happened. I said the responses were absolute dog shit, and the person running the social media accounts needs to be fucking fired. 100% agree.
We try to sift our way through this pig trough of human excrement that is this officer-involved shooting. And because our YouTube overlords don't like us talking about controversial subjects here, first a word from this video sponsor. If you've spent this January saying to yourself, this year I'm gonna quit, But then one of those old cravings starts coming
Don't
forward
be a
and
quitter.
you're back on your old bad habit. Well, Fume is a flavored air device that is designed to help people quit smoking and vaping. For the month of January, every core order is doubled. That's right, the delicious flavored cores of Fume.
Yeah,
Whether
it's
it
a
be crisp
fidget,
mint
quote,
peach
unquote,
blush
vape.
or the limited time gingerbread, they'll double your order. That means if you
Wait. Oh my God. Someone get one of these to Dean Withering Dick right away. This is perfect. He gets his vape and he gets his fidget stress pen. Someone send one of these to Dean Withering Dick right away. Stat.
you get 1 pack, you get 2. If you get 2 packs, you get 4. But act now because the double core offer expires at the end of January. Just order all of your year's cores now and save them in the fridge. So don't wait, head to tryfume.com/angrycops. That's tryfum.com/angrycops. Get your double core order and your free gift with a journey pack when you use code angrycops. Head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use code angrycops to get that double core sale and your free fume topper before this New Year's offer closes for good.
Okay. Oh, we're going that deep. Nice.
All right, it's necessary to start at the beginning, and oftentimes the beginning needs additional context. So let's talk about why Minnesota is such a hotbed of activity right now and what got us here. The Trump administration is having a strict crackdown on illegal immigration. And of course, because it's got President Trump in it, it's being politicized on both sides. One extreme side is saying that only bad criminals are being taken away and nothing bad happened at all, anywhere at all. And the other extreme side of the argument is saying that ICE is a terrorist organization and should be abolished. Everything they do is illegal. Obviously, there's a lot of room in the middle to play with. But the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, doesn't it? And with Minnesota being just a hotbed of political and maybe financial issues at the moment, it is the key battleground state for activism. So activist groups are coming in, they're disrupting ICE raids, and that has already led to a previous incident with Renee Good. You know, the lady that almost ran over an ICE agent and was shot. And if you'd like to see my breakdown on that, you go right ahead, see, look at that, it's there. More content for you that you'll either love or hate. And from that incident, even more of an outpour of activism has been directed towards that state. And let's touch on the activism. There are a lot of videos right now of normal citizens, or I would say more of the provocateurs of this activist group or groups that are stopping, chasing, stalking, harassing, and sometimes assaulting the residents of Minnesota because that group thinks that that individual riding around in just a Ford Explorer is an ICE agent or a Fed.
Here you go.
We
Like
watched
I don't have to do this. I'm happy
We
to do
watched
this.
this one.
That's all.
Yep.
So we just got to stop this.
And this is a lightweight version of what
Streamers
these
are
people
getting
are doing.
pulled out of their car and beat up. Legitimate media person.
Okay, I have to do a clarification.
Streamers are getting pulled out of their car and beat.
That's not what happened in this video. For the sake of clarity and full disclosure, that didn't happen in this video. What happened in this video is he was in his own car, like over here. He was videotaping with his phone. The driver of this car grabbed, not his phone, his camera. He was videotaping with his camera out the window. The driver of this car on foot ran over, joinked the camera, like ripped the camera out of his hands while he was very slowly driving down the street recording like B-roll or something, or just recording footage, stole the camera, ripped it straight out of his hands, ran to this car. He got out of his car to engage pursuit. This person got in the car and drove away, and this was him trying to get the door open to get his camera back. That is the context for this video. Unfortunately, he did not get ripped out of his car. So context is key, as I always said. And yes, I did hear a few days later she did get arrested for this. So again, context being very key here. So I want to make that full disclosure.
And beat up. Legitimate media personnel with all their stuff in their trunk are being forced to pull over after being stalked in vehicles and having horns beeped at them, boxed in and unable to leave,
Which is a crime.
having people demand that they show their credentials to some random person.
No, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
I'm not here to help you.
No, I
I think the
understand.
fact that you're in a vehicle like this at this
I
time
get it. But
is
with all due
God,
respect,
this
everybody,
fucking
I get
Karen.
it.
you can't. You go rent something else.
I'm
Rich,
not going to
if
say
you're
anything else
upset
on it.
about ICE detaining people illegally and you're doing that, pot calling the kettle black. An extreme version of it. A random group of people that are protesting political activists with no accountability, stopping citizens and demanding things from them?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Minnesota's kind of an intense area to be at the moment. Especially if you're one of these federal officers.
Okay.
So we've got a good
Oh,
backstory
God, that
now.
scene.
Let's talk.
This was the scene, again for context, this guy was holding this position all by himself. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I believe this was the officer that got the tip of his finger bitten off by a rioter. And he held all these people back with just a shotgun. Like solo. He held the line solo, bleeding, and held the line.
So we've got a good backstory
They might have
now.
thrown the rock at
Let's
him,
talk
maybe. I
about
can't remember.
ICE,
He was
their
injured, though.
presence in Minnesota
He
and
did
what
get
they
injured.
can do legally, right? ICE can obviously enforce federal law that they're there for, your customs and immigration law. Hey, you're here
Right.
illegally and you've committed a crime. You need to go. But ICE cannot
Yes.
enforce local or state laws. And here's where I see a lot of people getting mixed up. So let me be clear. No, an ICE agent can't stop you for littering on the street. That would be your local city or town ordinance that your local PD could fine you for. No, ICE vehicles can't do a traffic stop on you if you're an American citizen. However, they can do car stops with individuals that are a part of their investigation. And what we're seeing now is that while ICE officers are conducting an investigation, individuals are intentionally obstructing them with their vehicles or themselves standing in the middle of the road. And although ICE agents can't write them a ticket for parking illegally or running a red light, once again, that's state and local level law enforcement.
Correct?
They can, however, detain or arrest somebody for obstructing their investigation by
Right.
blocking a road or standing in the middle of the road in an
Yes.
effort to try and stop them from driving away or pin them in and prevent them from leaving. Think of it this way, if you're a normal person, like
And by the way, what he just said there about arresting someone for obstructing or impeding their investigation like that, that is the context for the entire incident with Renee Good. We won't get into the analytics of that, but that was the entire context of why that ICE agents were approaching her vehicle, was to take her into custody for impeding their operations or their investigation, which they are legally authorized to do.
or pin them in and prevent them from leaving. Think of it this way, if you're a normal person, like some of these bloggers or media personnel, and you're driving your car and then you're surrounded by a bunch of people, are they not obstructing your rights to freely move and go about your business? Now bump it
Yes,
up
indeed.
a notch and say that you are a law enforcement officer legally doing your duties, conducting an investigation, and the same thing occurs. Obviously, that's going to obstruct you in your duties.
And part of like the context here where he's talking about the environment with ICE, part of the context here which is causing this problem is that people are not recognizing let me clarify. They are refusing to recognize that ICE are indeed federal police. They are a federal police agency. They have arrest powers in their specific vein, in their specific authority, being customs and immigration, or if you attempt to obstruct or impede their investigation into immigration enforcement. The problem we're running into in Minnesota is that that the narrative has been pushed that they don't actually have authority. That is largely what is causing the problems here, is that the false narrative that they are not actually police, that they do not have police authority on a federal level in their narrow scope, and to include obstructing, attacking, impeding their investigations, that the narratives that they don't have police authority when they do. And it's and that is very largely a big portion of why all of these rioters are thinking that they can do this because they think, well, they don't actually have any authority in the first place. They're bootjack thugs, so I'm not doing anything illegal. And therein lies a big problem, which is leading up to these confrontations and leading up to this shooting that we will be analyzing shortly.
The difference between protesting and breaking the law. Finally, our first video of Alex. Now, this is several minutes before the overall incident occurs where unfortunately Alex loses his life. But what we can see is that Alex is in the middle of the road, obstructing an ICE investigation. Him and a couple other individuals, the people with whistles. And although there's kind of an anonymity in a group, if you are there with a group, then that means the entire group is now involved. So Alex,
yes,
as a part of this overall group, is now involved in the obstruction of this investigation by blocking roadways with himself and other people. He's talked to and guided or pushed or forced off of the road to try and get distance, so then that way the obstruction ceases to be. Now, could he be arrested for that? Could he be detained for obstruction? Sure, that is a legal possibility, but he's
Yes,
not.
it is.
So, at this moment...
And by the way, something that's not being mentioned here is not detaining or arresting someone for obstruction in this instance is at officer discretion. If they just shove him, like people get mad, like, oh, he just shoved them out of the way. Well, yes, because legally he was obstructing a police officer or obstructing their investigation or operation. It is up to the officer's discretion if they wish to detain and or arrest. If they can solve the issue by basically just booting him out of the streets, and that thus it clears the street, and they can continue on mission, and then they don't have to facilitate arresting him and doing all the fucking paperwork, and the suspect in question doesn't have to go through the process of being arrested and fingerprinted and charges filed, and then later showing up to court, so be it. That is officer discretion.
There's strike one for Alex. Hey, bud, you're here, you're told you're obstructing, you're forcibly pushed out of the road, you've already been instructed. Do not obstruct, or there is a potential for an arrest. I would suggest this is an instruction to not obstruct the investigation. Get out of the road, stay on the sidewalk, keep your space, normal things that you would hear. And when the body camera comes out, it would be interesting to hear exactly what that ICE officer says. But now we know why Alex is here. He's not just a guy that...
Oh, if they have body cam footage, I would be very interested in seeing that. I wasn't sure if these guys had body cams on. If they do, I hope to God that every single one of them had body cams.
Ember, did you see the new
absolutely.
video of Pretti kicking a law enforcement taillight out and spitting on law enforcement a few days before?
Yes, I did stay on topic. I saw it. I did see it.
Exactly what that ICE officer says. But now we know why Alex is here. He's not just a guy that's walking up and down the street. He's there to participate in a protest. And he's already been warned and escorted out of the street. Don't interrupt in this investigation.
Yeah. And I said stay on topic because that is immaterial to the events in question that occurred today. That's why I said it's immaterial. That happened previously. That did not happen during this event. And so in context of examining this event, it's immaterial in the facts of it. That's all.
And here we bring ourselves to the second video. The original video.
No, Hoyt, we're not watching politics. We are watching an analytical view of the incident that happened in Minnesota. I specifically said we're not talking politics. We're talking facts, and we're analyzing the situation. The politics, the ideologies, all of that is immaterial at this point. We're looking at the law and the actions of the occurrence. That's it. That's what we're looking at.
In this investigation. And here we bring ourselves to the second video. The original video that everybody saw that flooded the internet. Now, an unknown amount of time has progressed from when Alex originally met with the officer of the ICE agent who instructed him to get out of the road. This is where we see another officer, not the original one, push a female out of the road and then deploys chemical spray. This is when Alex gets in between the officer and the individual female that he's been pushing away out of the street.
Right.
Although slight, Alex is now obstructing this officer. But let's break this part down a little bit more and talk about crowd control tactics.
This is something Rich knows. Okay, this is Rich's wheelhouse. Rich has done this. There's old video footage of him actually facilitating crowd control. So this is something Rich has done and knows.
We talked briefly about ICE's job, right? Enforcing immigration and customs, right? Do you think they get a significant amount of training when it comes to crowd control? Probably not, because that's not really their job, unless you're at an actual border crossing station. But even then, state and local municipalities are likely more trained and apt to respond to large
And
crowd.
equipped. I think that also should be a distinction. State and local police are more trained in the avenue of crowd control and are better equipped to handle crowd control. ICE is simply just they arrest illegal immigrants. They're not trained for crowd control. They're not equipped with, say, extended like long batons, riot shields, chemical deployments. That's state and local police that have that, not ICE. So that's also a clear point of note.
Control events, riot squads, the party police, if you will. Now, I'm sure ICE has some sort of training or group that is trained in crowd control tactics, but I would bet that it's not to the level or with the level of experience that state and local municipalities train for. I myself received FEMA training on crowd control, and I have some questions about this first engagement with the ICE officer, the female, and Alex. Here we see a young lady walk up to the ICE officer. Too close. People are blocking the road. I'm tired of this. Get away from me. Get out of the road. Normal. Crowd control. Legal. Does it bring up other questions like, how long has he been dealing with her? Is this her first or second time talking to him? Did he need to push her? But legal. Then we have Alex try to get in the middle of it. This is where we see obstruction, and he's maced. And here is where I start seeing poor tactics. You've pushed the woman away. You've maced the guy. Why are we dancing around him trying to mace him more in the face? Create distance. Keep that distance.
Yes. Rich is absolutely right here. The way this guy, we don't know for sure. So this is pure speculation. Do not take this as fact. The way that this guy was deploying his pepper spray, it almost felt like he was trying to make a point. He hit them with the pepper spray, and then he was circling around trying to extra get it into Alex's face. Rich is 100% right. That is poor tactics. As soon as he deployed the pepper spray and they reacted to it, like they had a reaction to it, like, oh shit, I've been pepper sprayed, he should have backed off. Absolutely correct. This is the first point of failure on their tactics. Right here. He's absolutely right, and this is going to lead into what I think Rich is going to say that I have commented on in regards to the police tactics further of when they move in to secure Alex, where you guys remember I had thoughts about their tactics there. I'm curious if Rich is going to share my thoughts on it.
Distance and break contact. If you want to effect an arrest, then let's effect an arrest. Now, are these legal actions? Yes. Does it look sloppy? Yeah. Let's continue.
It does.
So it's been a couple more seconds, and now we've got a melee. People are falling all over the ground. The ICE agent's still macing people. He's falling all over the ground. Now more ICE agents are coming.
And I don't know if Rich is going to say this, but I don't know if Rich is going to say this, but if the ICE agent still deploying the tear gas creates a secondary problem. Everyone in this area is now getting affected by the pepper spray. Because he was not using a liquid pepper spray where it's targeted, where it's a stream of pepper spray liquid. He was using basically a fogger type of pepper spray, which means everyone here, the civilians and the police both, are probably getting affected by that pepper spray. There's not a whole lot of wind kicking around here. And so all of that pepper spray is permeating the area, which is affecting not only your suspects, but it's affecting your officers too. In the form of, it can cause their eyes to water, can cause their nose to run, can cause them to like start to choke up in their throat. And everyone may be affected by this now because that officer just went fucking ham on the pepper spray.
We've got a melee. People are falling all over the ground. The ICE agent's still macing people. He's falling all over the ground. Now more ICE agents are coming over here to see what is going on. Does this look tactically sound? No. Now what happens when people are screaming and rolling around
And that's what I said. That's what I said, that this dog pile was a shit show. When I initially talked about this several days ago, that's precisely what I said. This dog pile was an absolute shit show.
and nobody knows what to do? Officers react correctly. Let's separate everybody, detain, and figure it out. But what brought us here? What brought us to this pile of trying to separate and detain? Poor tactics. If you're gonna create distance and end it there. If you're going to effect an arrest. If you're going to mace in order to get people to comply, mace, see if they comply, and then reassess. But this dance of everybody falling over one another and having the officer interject himself into the two falling over themselves is sloppy. Is it illegal?
Yes.
No. All this is legal, but it's poor tactics. Now you're gonna say, AC, that doesn't make any sense. How can it look bad but be legal? How can it be so sloppy but still be okay? I'll give you.
Easy. The actions by the officers in and of themselves were legal. The clearing of the roadway, the using of the chemical agent, the other officers coming in to assist, all of this is legal. Just because it's sloppy doesn't mean it's illegal. That's where the distinction comes into play. The actions themselves were legal. They were just executed in a very poor and sloppy fashion. That's the crux of it. It's kind of like what's a good analogy? It's a good analogy. God, I'm blanking right now. It's damn. Training versus reality. Well, yes, training versus reality does look different. And bearing in mind, they were not trained. They're not really trained for this. But it's kind of like, okay, here we go. Here's a good analogy. Say you sign your name. Say you sign your name on a piece of paper, or say you write out a sentence on a piece of paper. Okay, let me do this here. You see a cute girl in class, and you want to pass her a note. Do you want to go out? And you write out on that note, "Hey, I like you. Do you like me?" And then you pass it to her. But your handwriting is sloppy as shit. Okay? Your handwriting is sloppy as shit and is kind of hard to read. And the other person can't really read it. Well, does that mean that you didn't write out the note, "I like you, do you like me"? No, they did write it. It was sloppy, but the sentence is there. It's sloppy and it's hard to read, but the sentence is there. It's a piss poor analogy, I know, but that's basically the same thing as here. The actions were legal, but they were done sloppily, but it does not detract that the actions in and of themselves, albeit done in a messy manner, are still legal and lawful in this case.
Give you an analogy. You've got a house. Somebody builds that
thank
house.
you, Rich.
That house is to the spec. It follows all the legal statutes for foundation and plumbing work. But the outside of the house is pink shutters, brown trim, and orange siding with black polka dots, with a multicolored roof. Sure, the house is legitimate, but it looks like You know what would have been great in this
That's
environment?
a much better analogy, I
if
think.
local PD were to, I don't know, have a crowd control unit of officers to cordon off the area. So then that way, the local populace protesting couldn't get involved with an actual federal investigation. This protects not only the federal officers that are legally conducting an investigation, but also the protesters and members of the community that are allowed and legally protesting. Geez, it's almost like if
It's it's not so much that the intent is there, but the actions are uncoordinated. The actions are legal, they're just uncoordinated. So intent is kind of outside of the equation a little bit. It's more like the actions that they took in response to the circumstances which they found themselves in were appropriate. The actions themselves were just messy.
that are allowed and legally protesting. Geez, it's almost like if local and federal law enforcement worked together instead of having politicians write executive orders stating that they can't or are unable to, maybe we wouldn't have some of these issues. Sound familiar? And while we're on the subject of tactics, right? When you're in
I don't think he's going to mention why the police aren't there. Again, this is a video about the facts of the circumstance, and the facts are the police weren't there, the police were ordered to be not there. That's it. Again, we're looking at facts, not illusions, ideologies, everything else. The facts are local PD was not there, they were kept from being there. That's it.
engaging people in crowd control, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to create distance? Are you trying to get compliance? Are you trying to effect an arrest? If you don't know what you're doing, it shows, and that can cause issues. When I watched the initial interaction between the ICE agent, the female, and Alex, I don't know what the is going on, and that's not good. Are you creating distance? Are you trying to get compliance, or are you making an arrest? And then you have to ask yourself, is this an appropriate time for an arrest? Because this is what happens when an arrest occurs. I need people to assist me in effecting an arrest. I need people that are securing the scene. That means additional personnel to make sure that I and people around me are safe, to include the person I'm arresting, because I'm in charge of their personal welfare when they're being detained. And transportation readily available to babysit and move this guy when he gets arrested. And now I have to spend additional time on scene tussling with somebody. None of that seems thought out. And here we are. Legal, but ugly. Legal, but confusing.
Here we go.
Now here's what you're all here for, right? The shooting. The most significant part in this entire story, because it leads to an American citizen losing their life to law enforcement. Not great. Nobody wants that. Unless you're on some sort of suicide mission. That's a different topic. One of the first things that I was taught in the academy is that
Okay. To your point, the more people you have, the better things go for resource management by providing security. Yes, if that resource management and providing security is implemented correctly. Because realistically speaking, and I do think Rich is going to bring this up, they had enough agents on site to facilitate the arrest and provide site security. They did. They had more than enough agents. The problem is none of them did that. There was no perimeter, and you basically had a shit ton of bodies piling on, when in reality, they should have had 2, maybe 3 agents facilitating the arrest of Alex, while the remainder secured other individuals that might have been trying to inject themselves into the, other civilians trying to inject themselves into the arrest, and providing site security to make sure nobody could come up behind them or in front of them or the side of them or whatever and try and jump in. Which is what I said when we first talked about this. It was a massive fucking dog pile that was sloppy as fuck and was not beneficial. And I do think it partially contributed to the shit show that resulted in the shooting. And I think Rich may say that, but that is my feeling as having observed and analyzed the situation.
Hey, young officers, hey, rookies, you need to realize that every call you go to is a gun call, because you are bringing a gun to the incident. Now, this isn't supposed to make officers get scared and jumpy and extra trigger happy. It's supposed to relay a crucial point. You have a responsibility to be aware of your actions because you are bringing a firearm into the situation, whether it's a cat in the tree or a burglary in progress or a traffic stop. You need to be aware of the responsibility and the potential dangers that you have that could occur because you're bringing a firearm into an environment. If only Alex had that knowledge. Let me start by saying carrying a firearm is your right. And there are people that say carrying firearms to a protest is illegal. Or you need to have your proper identification on you in order to carry. And if you don't have your ID on you, then it's automatically illegal. And to somebody who's fairly pro-Second Amendment, I would rattle off some of the numerous demonstrations where individuals have openly carried their firearms in protest of something. Pro-Second Amendment rights or marches. And even the Black Panthers were having their firearms out. So anybody telling you that you can't bring a firearm to a protest is wrong. Trying to state that because he didn't have his permit on him, even though he is a legal pistol permit recipient and can carry a concealed pistol, is a bad argument. I compare it to driving. If you're driving and you don't have your license on you, should you? Yes. Could the officer look it up? Yeah. But what I don't like is the broad term of illegally carrying when it's, I'm gonna say, a dumb law. And let's say if everything went well and nobody died that day and he was detained and his firearm was recovered from him and he was put in detention, right? And they said, hey, where's your permit? And he says, I don't have it on me, but I have one. And they look it up and they find it. Or they call up the Minnesota Trooper's office and say, can you run this guy's information? Does he have a permit? He does. They could then decide to press charges on him with obstruction and move on from there. But we're getting sidetracked because that's not what happened. What ended up happening is that once off.
And we should point out, like what Rich is saying here, is the issue was not that he had a firearm on him at the protest. Second Amendment says you have the right to bear arms. He was operating, and he had a permit for the weapon. He was within his legal rights to carry that weapon at a protest. Is it a good idea? No, probably not. You could argue it's not a good idea. Was he within his legal rights? Absolutely. And that's the crux of what we're talking about today. He was within his legal rights to carry the firearm and spare ammunition. Fully within his legal rights. That is the key note of distinction there.
Officers decided to detain Alex, and he was grappling with a number of...
You know what? You can agree that it was dumb for him to bring it. Perfectly legitimate if you say it was stupid for him to be carrying a firearm at the protest. Sure. You can add that opinion is fully understandable, but again, not illegal. As there are plenty of things that are legal to do, but can be pretty fucking stupid to do, even though they're legal. Not simply just with firearms.
Once officers decided to detain Alex, and he was grappling with a number of them, Alex resisted arrest and detainment while armed, which is dumb and bad. And now you're fighting with a bunch of officers, whether the detainment is...
It's your responsibility to avoid confrontation at all cost. Unless left with no options.
True, but again, from a legal perspective, and yes, I'm harping on this because it is the crux of why we're watching this. From a legal perspective, getting into a confrontation in and of itself is not illegal, even if carrying a firearm. Is it stupid? Yes. No arguments there. Is it stupid to get into a confrontation, like a physical confrontation or altercation, while you're carrying a firearm? Yes. No argument there. Is it illegal? No. It's not illegal.
And now you're fighting with a bunch of officers, whether the detainment is illegal or not, this one is, and they can now reasonably believe that if you are resisting arrest and you have a firearm on you, you are now armed and resisting arrest, which elevates the situation from a, let's just get this guy's hands behind his back, we'll use a bunch of body pressure to pin him down, to, oh shit, he has access to a firearm and he's already fighting with us. Now, I have been in moments where I am wrestling with somebody with the firearm and I have to pull my own out. And let me tell you, I didn't go into that day hoping to murk somebody. It is the actions of an individual carrying and now resisting arrest or detainment that elevate me to, oh shit. And if I could be candid with you, if we cut out everything beforehand and had a man fighting with officers that was armed, which ended in a police shooting, I don't think anybody would blink an eye. But just like that ugly house, there's a little bit more that we have to look at. Because during the struggle, another officer is able to disarm Alex and remove his firearm from him. And it's hard to hear, but some people say they can hear an officer yell, "Gun," when Alex is disarmed. It looks like the firearm is potentially discharged either by the officer or by itself, SIG, which is its own issue, as he goes to secure the firearm at another location away from the fight. And let's talk.
Yeah, again, it does need to be pointed out, at this time, when the firearm appears to discharge, yes, it was a SIG P320, the firearm that's known to go off by itself. However, it needs to be said, we do not know, as of yet, whether this firearm discharged, although the video evidence does seem to indicate that there's a discharge from this firearm, does seem to indicate it. And if there is a discharge, we do not yet know if the discharge occurred as an AD, as an accidental discharge, or an ND, which is a negligent discharge. Negligent discharge, meaning that when the agent secured the weapon, he accidentally pulled the trigger. He did not exercise proper trigger discipline and pulled the trigger. That would be a negligent discharge. Or was it an accidental discharge because where it's the SIG P320, because it got jostled, did the firearm discharge on its own with no input by the user? We don't know. This is more information that we need to wait for the investigation to disclose, whether or not the firearm discharged, whether or not this firearm discharged, and the reason why it discharged. Okay, it's key information that we need to have, that we need to find out due to through the investigation.
As he goes to secure the firearm at another location away from the fight. And let's talk about that. People without law enforcement experience or legal experience and just people that don't know what they're...
It does look like he was low gripping the firearm, like his full fingers on the grip, not near the trigger guard. It does look like it, but with the pixelation, it's not definitive. Unfortunately, with him wearing the gloves, unfortunately it's not definitive, and that's why I said we cannot make a judgment call of AD or ND if the weapon fired.
That people without law enforcement experience or legal experience and just people that don't know what they're talking about comment on this, saying that it's an execution or a murder, that he was disarmed and then the shots that ended Alex's life occurred, which you can do at slow motion. But legal precedent says that you have to view the incident as if you were an officer in that amount of time without it being slowed down. In the matter of just a few seconds, you're wrestling with somebody refusing to be arrested, resisting. One of your fellow officers yells "gun," now elevating the situation in the use of force continuum, right? Because now lethal force could be authorized. A firearm goes off while still engaging the individual that is fighting with officers, and then officers engage that person thinking that that person had discharged around at other officers, and other officers fire thinking the same thing. As much as you may not like to hear it, based on the totality of the circumstances, the speed at which it occurred, the resistance with a firearm, and it being reasonable to believe that officers were in danger, life-threatening danger, having an individual resist arrest from numerous officers while armed, it is reasonable to believe that the officers thought that they were in a deadly use of force environment.
And by the way, something that Rich has not mentioned here is the call out of "gun," because I've seen the videos and I could hear when these call out of "gun" occurred. Between the call out of "gun" And the shot that is suspected to have come from Alex's P320 as it was being removed from the scene was 1 second. Between saying gun and firearm discharge was 1 second. No, between the call out and the shot was about 1 second. Maybe 2 seconds, but it happened fast. And in that situation, at normal speed, a reasonable officer, an officer would reasonably think that a call of guns was just made. Maybe 2 seconds later, a gunshot is heard. The officers might reasonably think this guy's trying to take shots and respond defensively with lethal force. Like what the armchair quarterbacks don't understand is that these situations happen extremely fast. And in the context of what we saw, how it went down, it was chaos. It was absolute chaos between what was happening on the ground and what was happening in the environment. It was absolute chaos. And my guess is that basically when they heard gun and then a second or two later, bang, the officers basically reacted with their training. That when you hear gun and then you hear a gunshot, it means you're under attack and to respond defensively with lethal force. That's basically it. The armchair quarterbacks are, love to say, well, they should have known. They should have been trained better. No, this is exactly how they are trained. They're trained that if a gun goes off, then you have to act defensively. That's how this works. The armchair quarterbacks typically do not have combat training. They don't have law enforcement training. And they just go, well, they could have done stuff. They didn't have to shoot them when they have never been in a gunfight. They have never been confronted by a firearm. They've never had a firearm shot at them. They don't understand what officers go through, what training they go through to engage in situations like this. It's why all of the armchair quarterbacking that is going off of pure emotion and is not looking at the facts and the contexts of the situation are all rallying around the cry of, it was an execution. The officers could have done, the officers didn't have to do that because they've never been in the situation. Legit, they don't know how they respond. And they would be the first ones to admit, I don't know how I'd respond to that situation. These officers are trained on how to respond in that situation. And what they did is they fell back on their training. Again, not an outcome that I think anybody wanted, including the agents themselves. Despite what people might say, that the outcome of this is not what the agents wanted. None of them, regardless of popular opinion, went in there wanting to end someone's life. Not one of them. But in this instance, because there was a fear for their lives, they acted. And the result, unfortunately, was an American citizen lost his life.
And that force was authorized or legal, which, based on prior statutes, is. I cannot stress to you the importance of not resisting when you are armed while being legally detained or arrested by officers. But here's a quick, boiled down version of the events. Alex is in the street, obstructing a government entity from conducting an investigation. He's moved from the street and advised, get out of the street, don't obstruct the investigation. Moments later, unknown amount of time, second video shows he's being accosted by another ICE agent. A female steps in, that agent pushes the female away from himself. Alex gets involved, is maced and pushed down to the ground. Everybody is stumbling and fumbling over one another because of the icy conditions. Other officers engage because they see another officer getting in a physical confrontation with two other individuals.
And by the way, notice.
They see another because of the icy conditions. Other officers
Here is the exact problem.
Because they see another officer.
This person
getting in a physical
comes
confrontation.
in, you have another civilian This is why it's sloppy as fuck and why there was some improper here. You have this individual who is not an ICE agent, who is not an officer, is allowed to come in and get into the melee. This is why I said this dog pile was a shit show, where he should have had 2 or maybe 3 of the agents work on detaining him and the other ones basically form a perimeter and keep people like this out of the melee. Get them to step back, secure 4 corners, and ensure site security, because this person comes right in here and now you have another quote-unquote body added to this absolute dog pile of shit.
Getting in a physical confrontation with 2 other individuals.
And everybody's
The
falling all
individuals
over
are separated
everybody.
and brought down to the ground and are being detained. During the detainment, a legal detainment, Alex resists arrest. Officers, while engaging Alex as he is resisting arrest, discover that he is armed with a firearm.
Yeah. Now, this right here. You've got one guy working site security. This guy is standing here doing I don't know what. And then you've got, 5 or 6 guys that are all in this dog pile, and there's no control. You got these 5 or 6 guys that are there. There's it's a free for all. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Well, I shouldn't say nobody knows what they're doing, but it's like nobody knows. They're probably having a hard time figuring out what the other people are doing. Everybody's trying to do the same thing all at once, and it's a shit show. Is it illegal? No. Is it a shit show? Yes. Absolutely.
Notify other officers and try to disarm Alex. After disarming,
With that level of a dog pile, no one knows what anyone's doing. 5 different people may be trying to reach for the hands to get cuffs on, and when you only need 2 or 3 pairs, and there's just this is sloppy as fuck. Even for a regular arrest, this is sloppy as fuck. Realistically.
after disarming Alex, a firearm is discharged, whether it's Alex's or another officer's. It's unknown at this moment, but because Alex is resisting, and officers are aware that he's resisting now with a firearm in his possession, officers engage after that original shot by whomever it was, and unfortunately end Alex's life. Is it a legal shoot? Yes, it is legal. Is it a ugly, worst case version of legality when it comes to officer-involved shootings? Yeah, it's pretty bad. Are there some things that could have prevented this? Yes. Local law enforcement cordoning off areas to prevent the local public from obstructing ICE investigations, both protecting the law enforcement aspect of it from the federal side and the local community so as they're not engaging with ICE agents or obstructing federal investigations. Additional training for crowd control when it comes to ICE agents. Is there some blame that could be attributed to some of the protesters and the major instigators within that protest group? Absolutely. And as I stated earlier, is it legal? Yes. This is a legal and justifiable shoot based on past precedences and current laws. Is it an ugly shoot? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It really doesn't look good. Not really winning people
That's what I
over
said.
with this.
That's exactly what I said.
Now, I'll
it's
call
legal,
this part
but
like the
it's sloppy as
aftermath,
fuck.
right? The reactionary time period where everybody was going on the news and discussing some things. And I wanted to hit a couple things that some people said that I thought were in poor taste or intentionally misleading you to push a political agenda. I'd like to start off with Jon Stewart. Used to be a big fan of the guy.
Oh boy.
But ever since he stopped his show and then came back to it, he's just been an absolute nut job that I can't stand to listen to anymore. And this was his take.
The people that brought you this guy and these guys and these guys as heroes who are brandishing their weapons are telling you the big mistake was letting a citizen legally carry a gun. I mean, listen, I wasn't shocked when you guys gave up the First Amendment, and I wasn't shocked when you gave up the Fourth Amendment and the 10th Amendment and the 14th Amendment at Trump's behest. But the second,
Let's talk about what mattered in those two incidents, and that's police interaction. Alex fought with officers and refused to be arrested while armed. Kyle Rittenhouse walked up to officers with his rifle slung and hands up in the air. One, while being arrested, detained, refused to listen to commands and physically fought with officers while armed.
Yes.
Another kept his hands away from his weapon, raised above his head, and listened to officers' commands when instructed to do so. Just because guns are involved doesn't mean it's the same incident or thing or law.
Exactly. And that's what it boils down to. With those comparisons, what they're trying to do is they're trying to postulate the good for ye, not for me argument, and it doesn't work because the situations are entirely different. Exactly. Is an entire false equivalency. And that's it's all they've got, and that's why they give it up. And I think I know why, which I'll say at the end of the video.
John? And in case you didn't know this, John is a stout anti-Second Amendment guy. If you want to have your own personal firearm, he thinks that you want kids in Uvalde to die. And no, that's not an over-exaggeration. He said that in an interview to, I think it was a U.S. senator or representative.
You don't mind infringing free speech to protect children from this amorphous thing that you think of. But when it comes to children that have died, you don't give a flying to stop that because that shall not be infringed. That is hypocrisy at its highest order.
Kash Patel made an interesting, and I thought boneheaded decision the other day when he said this.
You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
I concealed carry. I sometimes carry additional magazines.
Yeah. And there it is. Yeah, he's fucking wrong. The director of the FBI is wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. Alex did not violate any laws by carrying a firearm at the protest. None. The simple act of him carrying a firearm at that protest was not a violation of the law. That was a stupid fucking take. An absolutely stupid fucking take. To go along with all of these dumb, boneheaded comments that have been made by officials immediately after the shooting. It's like, they need to shut the fuck up. Kash Patel has not proven himself to be a good director for the FBI. And honestly, he needs to get fired. He legit needs to get fired. I know he was held on high as like, oh, he's the big badass who's going to bring order back to the FBI. No. He needs to go. He needs to be fired. He can't do this job. That public statement that he made showcasing that he doesn't understand how the law works, instant fire. He should be out of a job the next day. He needs to go the fuck away and be fired.
Because I choose to use my Second Amendment right to protect myself does not place any intent on me to want to kill or hurt somebody. Me legally possessing a firearm and walking around in public, if it is a protest or not, is not intent to do harm. It's a horribly slippery slope that I can't stand and is just short-sighted and dumb. How many rounds can I legally carry to not be a threat or want to hurt others? 2? 1? Give me an arbitrary number, sir. No, I can carry 50 rounds of additional ammo. If I want, it's ammunition. Who gives a shit about the ammunition? I can legally carry a firearm, and if I want to reload when somebody's breaking into my house or trying to carjack me with my family in it, then I can reload. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. Exercising your Second Amendment right while protesting and not breaking any laws is totally legal and does not mean intent to do something.
Yes.
So there you have it. A long-winded deep dive into why this was a legal but ugly shoot from the perspective of a guy that's done crowd control and has wrestled a couple dudes with pistols. that shouldn't have had them. Convicted felons that got let out because of New York State's catch and release program and bail reform. Best way to support the channel is buy a shirt. I got the party police. Speaking of, riot squads and stuff. Bang! Tear gas, rubber bullets, all the good stuff. Cheapest way to support the channel is tell me what you think. I would like to know what you think. If you think I'm wrong, tell me that I'm wrong. If you think that I'm right, tell me why you think that I'm right. Don't just agree. Don't just say you're wrong. You might have something. You might say something that I like, that I think is interesting. You might say something that I think is dumb. Could be fun. All right. Additional contents on Pepperbox, uncensored. See you next time, weirdos. Update. We have an update. As is the case with a lot of these incidents regarding individuals protesting and with tens and hundreds and thousands of cameras being used to film things, new video comes up. In fact, this video is a week before Alex passes away.
Oh,
Let's
this is
watch
what
that real
this is.
quick.
I've
The morning
seen
of
this. What
January
you guys were
13th,
talking about.
Our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. The man kicked their taillight. The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Pretti was wearing on the day he was killed.
Yeah.
What appears to be a gun is also visible above his
Yep,
waistband.
you can see it. You can see it right there. There's his firearm. There it is.
Is also visible above his waistband.
Yep.
Interesting. You see that right there? That's a pistol. Likely the same pistol that Alex carried on the day that he passed away. And what does this video show? Well, it shows Alex, dressed like he was previously, going up to an ICE officer's vehicle while armed, as you can see here, and destroying federal property, a patrol vehicle or a rental, whatever. Now, in New York State, we'd call that criminal mischief, which is the breaking of somebody's property. Then he's detained and then released, and that's when you see the firearm on his hip.
Yep.
The same location where it was recovered from a week later when he passes away. Now, does this change your mind about anything, or does it not change your mind? Do you think it affects the incident that happened later on, or is it a totally unrelated subject and during the legal proceeding would not be brought up or be allowed to get brought up at all? Well, if you'd like to know my thoughts on that, you're gonna have to check me out on Pepperbox, where you see everything uncensored and there's additional content anyway, but I'm going to make a Pepperbox exclusive specifically breaking down this new video and what it might mean, if anything, for the investigation regarding his death just a few days ago. Links below. Back to present me.
Okay, now, with that additional video footage, does it change the context of the shooting itself? No. No, it doesn't. That video where he kicked out the taillight of a federal vehicle has no bearing on the context of the situation at all. If there was an arrest instead of him losing his life, it could have come up in court as a precipitating event that would showcase how he has been aggressive to federal agents in the past. Certainly. But in the context of the shooting, it doesn't change anything. It's a completely different day, completely different situation. The only context might have been if one of the agents involved in that previous incident was present during the shooting, which we don't know. If one of the agents that was present at the time of the shooting was present during that previous incident, then perhaps maybe they would have had previous knowledge that this individual is known to carry a gun, if they even recognized him. That's another issue. That even if they'd encountered him before, would they recognize him? You have to remember, they're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people, of these protesters, every day. They may not have recognized him. So in the context of what we just saw, that previous incident is immaterial in that respect. Now, here's my thoughts on why we're seeing all of the, as a last thoughts on this, why we're seeing all of these very divergent opinions on the side of the ICE officer saying he shouldn't have been carrying a gun, it's illegal, which is abjectly false, and the other side saying he was innocent, he got executed, etc., etc. People are thinking in extremes and needing to have it happen the way they did because partially, at least partially, because of human nature. It's these, observers, these conspiracy theorists, whatever you call them. They need this to happen in the way that they think it happened because they had zero control over the situation. That they weren't there, they only observed it through the internet, so they have zero control over the situation, and they are desperate to try and take control and make sense, because what it all boils down to is every single person that is going crazy about what happened, either in favor of or against ICE or whatever, either cannot accept or are struggling with the fact that life is messy. That situations like this are messy and gray and not clear cut. And they are basically, they are reacting emotionally, and they're trying to wrest control in some way to basically go, I know it happened this way, and that way I can feel better because I'm sure that it happened this way, and anybody who says this is whatever. And admitting that life is chaotic, things like this happen, it's not neat and it's not pretty, and it makes people feel very uncomfortable. And this is their way of basically coping with this discomfort that they have just witnessed an act of chaos that has resulted in the loss of someone's life. That really is what it boils down to, with all these people doing these extreme viewpoints from either side, pro-ICE, anti-ICE, pro-Alex, anti-Alex, what have you. It's their desperate attempts to gain control over an uncontrollable situation and a chaotic situation. That, in the end, is what they're doing with all of this. In addition to, there could be other reasons, but I think at the core, that's what they're trying to do at its core.